the master premise. And so the process of reasoning, and to reference your blog, Alex, one's use of reason is clearly a sequence of actions. But so the question is this process free, or is it at least sometimes free? Well, so I like to bring in a guy named Phil, the philosopher. He's my imaginary philosopher here. And
what does attaining truth mean? To know? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm talking about the ability to infer the best explanation about metaphysical matters and to rationally affirm that these things are probably true, or to just do we have the power to get to the truth on these things? To say, yeah, we do have free will, or no, we don't have free will. So you and I are engaged in this conversation right now, trying to attain truth about metaphysical matters. So I don't think that's one that you want to reject, because you're trying to provide knowledge claims that you're trying to argue that we don't have free will, but that's a metaphysical matter.
Right. So it's knowledge claims, right? So you mean knowledge about metaphysics, right?
Yeah, knowledge would
attaining truth. You mean knowledge? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and it might be possible for me to do that in an unreliable way, right? But
then
what do you mean by reliable?
If it's not reliable, then it's not justified. And so, if we're going to use this, I know there's debate over the definition of knowledge, but I tend to use the common definition of justified true belief. And I think even if there is more required for knowledge, as soon as you start discarding those key ingredients, then things start to fall apart. So if it's unreliable source of knowledge, then you don't have justification for it. And if it's
I guess what I'm saying is, like, perhaps occasionally you have knowledge about metaphysics, but not very often. I guess I'm thinking of reliability in terms of kind of frequency or something. I mean, maybe I get it wrong 9 times out of 10, but 1 time out of 10 I find something out about metaphysics. Does that count as what you mean by reliable attaining of truth?
So the problem there is going to be, as I unpack this, that if the stuff that determines the entirety of your mental activity, gets you to get the majority of things right about metaphysics. Let's say you get 6 things right about metaphysics and 4 things wrong. Well, you will know, or you will affirm 6 truths about metaphysics. But mm-hmm. once you stand in a position then to say, 4 of my 10 metaphysical beliefs here, and all my metaphysical beliefs are determined by antecedent conditions, the entirety of my mental activity is, then which of, you could even say, well, my cognitive faculties are generally reliable to deliver me truth about metaphysics. Well, that's going to be a metaphysical claim itself. And now once you realize that the stuff that's determining the entirety of your mental activity is non-rational and mindless itself, now you have a defeater to each of those 10 metaphysical beliefs, and you don't know which ones are true and which ones are false. And when you say, well, I am going to examine, to do the work and painstakingly do the work and do my due diligence to see which ones are true and which are false, then you have to realize, well, wait a second, I'm not doing it. It's the antecedent conditions that are passing through me. J.P. Moreland and I discuss this a lot in our paper. I am experiencing passive sensations of reasoning, evaluatings and judgings, but you aren't the one making the judgments. Mindless stuff is determining how you judge, how you reason, how you evaluate. And now the whole thing's going to start to fall apart. But I think I can make this a little bit more clear if I can go to some of my notes here.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's have Alex come back while you're checking out those notes. A look of consternation on your face there, Alex. So please get straight into it.
I think this could just be. I don't know why this is why this isn't much simpler. Why aren't you just saying human beings can have metaphysical knowledge? Why not just say it's possible? Why bother talking about reliability? Right, your argument is that it's not possible for them to have that knowledge if determinism is true. But so why isn't
no. It's if determinism is true, coupled with what if the determining factors are untrustworthy and unreliable to attain or to provide you with metaphysical truth. So I get this all the time. People say you're saying that it's determinate. I'm not blaming you on this. I hear this a lot. They'll say you're just saying that it's impossible in determinism. I say no. Like, for example, say that God exists and determines everybody's thoughts and beliefs. Okay, that's possible. I don't think he does that. I do think God exists. I don't think he determines everybody's beliefs. But if a maximally great being who desires everybody to know truth, just as 1 Timothy 2:4 says, and then determines everybody to get metaphysics right all the time, then you would have determinism plus justified true beliefs.
But we're talking about naturalistic determinism.
Right. I'm just saying, I just use this as an example that determinism could be true, but and you could still have justification.
Do you think naturalistic determinism could be true and we could have justification?
No, and I'm about to explain why.
Okay, but that's what I was saying. Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. You think naturalistic determinism means that knowledge about metaphysics is impossible, right?
Because not simplicator. It's once naturalistic determinism. I'm going to raise a defeater against that. So that's part of my defense of this key premise. So if a defeater is raised, then you lose justification for that belief. So would you mind if I kind of unpack this key premise a little bit?
Okay.
So again, I say this is the master premise, and the process of reasoning, and to reference your blog, Alex, one's use of reason is clearly a sequence of actions. But so the question is this process free, or is it at least sometimes free? Well, so I like to bring in a guy named Phil the philosopher. He's my imaginary philosopher here. And so suppose that Phil the philosopher spends the afternoon weighing the arguments both for and against the existence of human libertarian freedom, which is a metaphysical matter. And he concludes by inferring that humans lack this freedom and that naturalistic determinism is true. But given his conclusions and his beliefs now, Phil faces a difficulty. How can he trust his reasoning or his use of reason? If Phil's reasoning was determined, then he could not have refrained from performing that exact manner or use of reason. And it's impossible that he could have arrived at a different inference or conclusion. Moreover, some factors external to him determined him to reason exactly the way he did and to arrive at the specific conclusion. So how then can Phil trust his reasoning processes and be rationally justified in his inference that humans lack libertarian freedom? Well, there's two possibilities, it seems to me, and maybe you can think of more, but the first possibility is this. If Phil has good reasons for thinking that the external factors determining his reasoning processes are reliable to determine him to attain truth regarding metaphysical matters, then his trust in his inference regarding metaphysics is justified. The problem here, however, is that Phil would then be led into viciously regressive reasoning because he cannot reason that the external factors determining his reasoning processes are reliable until he has reasoned that the external factors determining his reasoning processes are reliable. So that's a horrid, nasty situation, so it's not a good option. Well, there's another possibility. The answer is this. One, if Phil's belief in the reliability or general reliability in his reasoning abilities to infer truth about metaphysical matters is a basic belief, and two, if he has no defeater for this belief, then his trust in this reasoning process is justified. Now, it seems that the belief in the reliability of human reasoning is a basic belief. However, in Phil's case, if he affirms naturalistic determinism and its corollary that humans lack libertarian free thinking, then as I noted earlier, Phil is faced with a defeater for his belief in the reliability of his reasoning abilities. And here's why. Phil's belief in naturalistic determinism, coupled with certain human experiences, provide him this defeater for his belief. So experience shows, and Graham Oppy has noted this, that multiple humans, including epistemic peers and PhD metaphysicians, can evaluate the same evidence or arguments, but arrive at different conclusions. That we can strongly disagree with each other's arguments, that one's reasoning can be mistaken, and that we sometimes change our minds about an argument. But if these situations are determined by external factors, those same factors appear to be rather clumsy at producing consistent reasoning processes, especially with metaphysics in mind. So why should we trust him? Why should Phil trust his rational faculties on metaphysical matters? Why should Phil think that these external factors have determined him to reason soundly and others to reason unsoundly? What makes Phil so special that naturalistic events, mindless, antecedent conditions that know nothing about metaphysics would determine Phil to arrive at true metaphysical beliefs and his critics to arrive at erroneous conclusions? The difficulty thickens when we consider that if naturalistic determinism is true, then Phil's so-called use of reason is determined by no rational beings whatsoever. No, the manner in which Phil experiences sensations of reasoning is determined by consciousness lacking, intelligence lacking, wisdom lacking, reason lacking, morality lacking, and as Joshua Rasmussen has said, mindless stuff that knows nothing about metaphysics. And this is probably why Charles Darwin himself admitted, quote, "With me, the horrid doubt always arises whether the convictions of a man's mind are of any value or at all trustworthy," end quote. Now, I've got a lot more to say in defense of this premise, but unlike Alvin Plantinga's well-known evolutionary argument against naturalism, the free-thinking argument finds the core difficulty not only in the conjunction of naturalism and evolution per se, which I do think is a problem, but the free-thinking argument also finds it in its indeterminism and its preclusion of libertarian free thinking. And most importantly, the big problem is that mindless stuff that knows nothing about metaphysics would be sufficient to necessitate Phil's metaphysical beliefs. And that's huge reason to doubt Phil's metaphysical beliefs. If Phil's rational processes, I'll stop there.